They buried an empty coffin, said he died in the canyon fire. But when the town lit up in smoke 3 years later, Wade Mercer walked straight out of the flames, with a scorched coat and a score to settle. Wade Mercer was a man of integrity and kindness, well known in his small town. As a dedicated firefighter, he fearlessly battled blazes, saving lives and protecting homes. People admired him not just for his bravery, but for his genuine smile and warm heart. He often went beyond duty, helping neighbors with their gardens or coaching Little League baseball in the summers. But it wasn't just his job that defined him. Wade shared a deep love with his wife, Emily. Their connection was strong, woven together with laughter and shared dreams of the future. They spent evenings on their porch, sipping iced tea while sharing stories about their day or planning trips to explore the mountains they adored. To Wade, home wasn't merely a place. It was a feeling brought alive by Emily's presence. However, amidst this perfect life lay shadows of danger. A group of ruthless men grew envious of Wade's accomplishments and popularity. They felt threatened by his reputation and decided to take matters into their own hands. The friendship Wade had built within the community made him vulnerable in their eyes, and they plotted an ambush to silence him forever. Despite the looming threats, Wade carried on with life as usual, believing he could outsmart his enemies through everyday courage and compassion. He attended local events, engaged in community projects, and showed support to anyone in need, never imagining that there were dark forces plotting against him. One fateful afternoon changed everything. While hiking through the canyon, the beautiful trail he loved, Wade found himself surrounded by treachery. The air was still, casting an eerie calm over the otherwise joyful landscape. Out of nowhere, he was ambushed. Two shots rang out like thunderclaps in the serene canyon, echoing off the walls entirely too loud for anyone who knew him to believe such a tragedy could occur. In those chilling moments of pain and confusion, as he collapsed to the ground, Wade thought only of Emily. The life they had built together would end here if these men had their way. In a cruel twist of fate, while Wade fought for breath with fire in his heart, unwilling to surrender to oblivion, he became a ghost, a presumed victim buried beneath layers of deceitful celebration from those who sought power through violence. But unbeknownst to everyone, Wade didn't die that day. He survived, steeling himself with thoughts of Emily and his former life as he waited for the perfect moment to return home. The sun hung high in the sky that fateful day, casting a warm glow over the canyon trail that Wade Mercer knew so well. Birds chirped merrily, and the leaves rustled softly in the gentle breeze, creating a peaceful backdrop that belied the danger lurking just beyond sight. Wade was enjoying his solitary hike, lost in thoughts of Emily and their plans for the future. The tranquility around him was suddenly shattered. Out of nowhere, he felt an intense sting pierce through his side, followed by another jarring impact in his arm. In those split seconds, time seemed to warp into a blur as pain washed over him like electric fire. Wade stumbled, his world tilting sideways as the reality of being shot sank in. He gasped for breath, confusion replacing the calm he had felt moments earlier. How could this be happening? The thought echoed in his mind while adrenaline surged through his veins. Amidst the chaos of his own spiraling thoughts, he heard shouts and footsteps approaching. Panic surged as Wade realized he wasn't alone. His enemies had come to finish what they started. He remembered their faces from previous encounters, their envy burning bright when they spoke about him within earshot. They believed they could snuff out his light without consequence, but they grossly underestimated his will to fight. Wade tried to get to his feet, muscles screaming in protest. The pain was blinding, but he couldn't afford to let it stop him now. He scanned the area, blurred figures darting among the rocks like shadows. With every ounce of strength left in him, Wade reached for a nearby boulder and pulled himself close, hoping to hide from their view. Gunfire repeated itself, a cacophony wrenching through the serenity of nature as bullets flew overhead, ricocheting against stone walls with a sharp clang. It felt surreal. One minute he was immersed in blissful solitude, and the next, he was amidst an explosive eruption of violence. Panic gripped not just Wade's heart, but also shattered the stillness of the canyon. It would never be serene again. He remembered Emily's laughter, a comfort that turned into unbearable anguish as he struggled against waves of unrelenting pain and fear. Would she have known? Did she sense something ominous hovering over him like a dark cloud? But even trapped in agony, Wade fought to cling to life while curling around those precious memories. The attack turned into a struggle for survival as darkness crept closer around him. Confusion swirled like smoke in his lungs as he realized this was it. The battle had begun whether he was ready or not. In those final blurry moments before losing consciousness, an overwhelming fire ignited deep within him. This would not be where his story ended. It would only be the beginning of something far more extraordinary. In the days following Wade's ambush, the town of Riverton fell into a shadowy silence. News of his presumed death spread like wildfire, igniting sorrow and disbelief among the community members who had cherished him. Emily was inconsolable, her heart shattered as she prepared to say goodbye to the love of her life. She buried an empty coffin, not knowing that Wade's body had never been found. It felt almost unreal to her. Yet in her mind, he was gone forever. As Emily stood by the grave, surrounded by friends and family, she clung to the last moments they shared together, their laughter echoing in her ears like a haunting melody. Tears streamed down her face as she listened to muffled words of sympathy from those around her, but all she could feel was the crushing weight of loss. The world seemed to dim without Wade by her side. Every corner of their home became a reminder of what was no longer there. Meanwhile, the men who had attacked Wade reveled in their victory. With him out of the way, they quickly seized control of the town, using intimidation and fear to manipulate those who once looked up to Wade as a leader. They turned Riverton into a place where whispers replaced laughter, and shadows loomed larger than life. Local businesses struggled under the oppressive weight of their rule, and anyone who dared to stand against them faced dire consequences. Wade's enemies exploited his absence to expand their influence, spreading rumors that painted him as a reckless man who had wandered off and got himself killed. Their twisted narrative convinced many that with Wade gone, peace would return to Riverton. Yet behind closed doors, they held meetings rooted in greed and ambition, plotting how they could further tighten their grip on the community. Emily spent countless nights staring at old photographs of Wade, her fingers tracing over their smiles as memories flooded back, hiking trips, summer barbecues, and quiet evenings filled with love. Each memory felt like a double-edged sword. They brought comfort but also deepened her sorrow. She longed for closure, yet every time she closed her eyes, she imagined Wade returning home as if he would walk through the door any moment. As weeks turned into months, hope flickered dimly like a candle fighting against the wind. Yet beneath that sorrow lay an ember of resilience within Emily. Little did she know that Wade was still alive, waiting for the right moment to return not just for himself, but also for her and their once vibrant community. The struggle for Riverton was far from over. It was only just beginning. Wade Mercer awoke in darkness, pain radiating from his wounds like fire across his body. The realization that he had survived the ambush hit him with the intensity of a lightning strike. With every breath, he winced, each movement reminding him of the brutal attack that had nearly taken his life. He was lying against a rocky outcrop in the canyon, hidden from view but not safe just yet. Struggling to recall how he had gotten there, Wade felt a wave of determination wash over him. He refused to succumb to despair. Instead, he focused on Emily's face, her laughter echoing in his mind, urging him to fight. The thought alone ignited a fierce will to survive against all odds. For days, Wade managed to remain hidden in the canyon. He scavenged for food and water, using his firefighter training to create makeshift shelters and find safe drinking sources. Each sunrise brought new challenges as he slowly healed from his gunshot wounds, relying on the rugged terrain to conceal him from his enemies who still roamed freely in Riverton. As time passed and his strength began to return, Wade knew he couldn't just survive. He had to prepare for what lay ahead. He started training in secret, using the natural environment around him as his gym. He ran alongside the riverbanks to build endurance and practiced hand-to-hand combat with fallen branches and stones. With each passing day, he pushed himself harder, channeling all his anger and frustration into honing his skills. He envisioned the faces of his enemies, who believed they had succeeded in silencing him forever. The fire inside him burned bright. Every push-up and every sprint fueled his resolve to reclaim his life and protect what mattered most, his hometown and Emily. During long nights under the stars, he reflected on how much had changed since that peaceful hike. Memories of laughter and love became sources of strength rather than sorrow. He spent hours planning his return, mapping out strategies to confront the men who had turned Riverton into a shadow of its former self. Weeks turned into months, and slowly the pain subsided while his body transformed through sheer willpower and determination. As spring bloomed around him, Wade was no longer just a survivor. He was a man reborn with purpose. The time for waiting was almost over. Soon he would walk back into Riverton not just to reclaim his place but to finish what had been started that fateful day in the canyon. The battle for his life was drawing near, and this time he was ready to fight back with everything he had. The day had finally come. As Wade stood at the edge of the canyon where he had fought so hard for his life, a mix of emotions swirled within him. Over the past few months, he'd transformed both physically and mentally, now as strong as he had ever been, but the emotional weight was still heavy. He realized that heading back to Riverton would mean confronting not only the men who sought to kill him, but also the remnants of the life he once cherished. Gazing out over the vast landscape, Wade took a deep breath, allowing the fresh air to fill his lungs while picturing Emily's face illuminated by joy. He could almost hear her laughter echoing from their home. As memories washed over him like soothing waves, he felt a surge of determination course through his veins. But this time, it wasn't just about survival. It was about justice, the kind that would reclaim their future and restore hope for those suffering under tyranny. Every step back toward Riverton, Wade felt shadows of his past haunting him. Each familiar landmark, those whispered memories of the laughter-filled days that led up to his ambush, suddenly became bittersweet reminders of what he had lost. There were places where he and Emily had shared dreams, and now those dreams lay in tatters beneath the weight of betrayal. His heart raced as he approached town limits. Anticipation mixed with anxiety twisted together like storm clouds gathering before a fierce tempest. While part of him grew anxious at the thought of facing former friends who might have betrayed him, another part was fervently eager to confront those who assumed they would never see him again. He envisioned walking into town, head held high, proving them wrong. As Wade slipped through the outskirts under cover of dusk, a sense of purpose enveloped him. Here was not just a man returning from death's doorstep, but someone filled with unyielding resolve to reclaim his destiny and protect those who remained vulnerable in Radford's grip. Once vibrant streets now seemed dark and ominous under their influence. However, this time Wade saw faces filled with fear instead of laughter. The air hung heavy with tension. People darted sideways glances and whispered in hushed tones whenever he neared, a ghost wandering into reality. This wasn't just his fight anymore. It was about Emily and all those who were left behind in a world turned against them. With fire still igniting his spirit, Wade prepared himself for what lay ahead. There was no turning back now. His return marked the beginning of a reckoning, a chance to reclaim everything they had stolen and finish what should have ended long ago in that canyon. As Wade stepped into the heart of Riverton, tension hung thick in the air like a storm about to break. The streets were not the vibrant ones he remembered. They were cloaked in an oppressive silence broken only by hushed whispers and fearful glances. His heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and dread as he approached a corner tavern that had once been a gathering place for friends, now suffocated by foreboding. Pushing open the creaky door, Wade felt every eye in the room turned toward him. He stood at the threshold, his heart racing. Recognition flickered across familiar faces, faces that had celebrated his life now looked on with disbelief and shock. The laughter that used to ring out now lay buried under layers of fear. And there, amidst a group of rough-looking men lounging at the bar, was Jake Harlow, the ringleader of those who had wanted him dead. Jake's eyes widened as he met Wade's gaze, disbelief quickly transforming into a sneer. It was clear he was trying to mask his shock with bravado, but Wade could sense the tremor beneath it. "You're supposed to be dead," Jake spat, his voice dripping with contempt as others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Wade's mind surged back to that day in the canyon when Jake had laughed as the bullets tore into him, a reminder of how close to death he'd been. But now he was alive, staring down the man who had aimed to silence him forever. "Looks like you thought wrong," Wade replied calmly, his voice steady despite the chaos inside him. The atmosphere crackled with tension, old wounds reopened as memories flooded back. Wade fought against feelings of vulnerability as he navigated through glances darting between him and Jake. He noticed others whispering among themselves, fear etched across their faces. What would happen next? Would they side with Wade or cling to their allegiance with Jake? As Jake stepped forward menacingly, a wicked grin spreading across his face, Wade felt adrenaline surge through him again. "What do you want? You think you can just walk back here after all this time?" he taunted. "I'm here to take back what's mine, my town," Wade answered firmly, feeling power course through him as he spoke those words aloud. He realized then it wasn't just about confronting Jake, it was also about freeing Riverton from the grip of fear and violence. With each passing moment, Wade steeled himself for what lay ahead. Here it was, his first encounter with enemies who believed they had won, yet while they saw fear in their midst, all he felt was determination burning bright within him. No longer would he be a ghost. Instead, he would be a force forged from survival and waiting for this very moment to reclaim everything he loved from those who sought to destroy it. As Wade navigated the streets of Riverton, images from his past flooded his mind, contrasting sharply with the oppressive atmosphere that now enveloped the town. He remembered the laughter of children playing in the park, where he once stood coaching little league games, proudly cheering them on from the sidelines as they hit home runs. Their joy had been infectious, pure and untainted by fear. He recalled summer evenings spent at the local diner, sharing milkshakes with Emily while the jukebox played their favorite songs. They would talk about their dreams, plan future adventures, and share stolen kisses that made the world feel right. Those moments were filled with warmth and light, illuminating their lives against the backdrop of small-town charm. But now, as he walked through those very streets, shadows loomed large where laughter had once reigned. Wade's heart ached as he passed the old movie theater, a place where he and Emily had shared popcorn and watched cheesy rom-coms together. It stood silent now, its marquee dark, a stark reminder of how life had changed in his absence. The vibrant colors that once adorned the storefronts now seemed dulled, drained by the dark influence of Jake and his cronies who roamed freely, instilling fear in anyone who dared to defy them. In his mind's eye, he could see the faces of his old friends, their smiles bright and full of life, now replaced by expressions of dread. He felt a pang of guilt for abandoning them, even though he knew he had fought to survive for their sake. Every tormented glance from those around him reminded him of the stakes at play. This wasn't just about reclaiming his own life, but about restoring hope to a town that had been suffocated. As he approached the community center, a place once filled with celebrations and gatherings, he remembered hosting fundraisers with Emily to support local causes. Now it stood as a hollow shell, its doors locked tight against unwanted guests. Memories washed over him like waves crashing against the shore, each one a reminder of what was worth fighting for. Wade's resolve hardened as he reflected on the vibrant community he loved. He could not allow Jake and his gang to extinguish that light forever. With each step forward, those memories became fuel for his fire, a blazing determination that ignited within him. He was no longer merely a survivor. He was a man on a mission to bring back the joy and laughter that had been stripped away from the people he cared about most. Determined to confront not only his enemies, but also the suffocating fear they had instilled in Riverton's heart, Wade felt anchored by memories of love and camaraderie. He would ensure that Emily's spirit lived on in this town, and together they would rise against the darkness that sought to consume it. The past remained a powerful ghost guiding him, illuminating his path towards reclaiming everything that had been lost. Wade knew that to reclaim Riverton, he couldn't do it alone. As he walked through the town, he began to seek out old friends and allies who had once stood by his side. He started with Tom, a fellow firefighter who had always been one of Wade's closest confidants. Finding him at the local hardware store, Wade noticed the weariness etched on Tom's face as he helped a customer. The spark of camaraderie ignited as soon as their eyes met. "Wade," Tom gasped, disbelief washing over him. "I thought you were dead." "I'm very much alive," Wade replied, a grin breaking through the tension. "But we need to talk about what's happening here." Tom led Wade to a quiet corner of the store where they could speak freely. As they exchanged stories, Wade learned how Jake and his gang had taken control, instilling fear in everyone who dared to oppose them. Tom's frustration bubbled to the surface as he shared tales of bullying and intimidation that had driven good people into silence. "I've felt so helpless," Tom confessed, anger flashing in his eyes. "We can't let them continue ruining our town." Wade's heart swelled with hope. "You're not alone anymore. Together we can rally others who feel the same way." With renewed purpose, Wade and Tom set out to reconnect with other former allies, friends who had also suffered under the oppressive regime of Jake's crew. They visited Mary, the owner of the diner, where laughter once filled the air but now sat empty and desolate. When she saw Wade standing there, her eyes widened in shock before filling with tears of joy. "They said you were gone," she exclaimed as she embraced him tightly. "I'm back," Wade assured her, "and I have a plan to take our town back." Mary nodded vigorously, determination replaced the sorrow in her eyes. "I'll help however I can. We need to show everyone they're not powerless." As word spread through Riverton about Wade's return, whispers of hope began to ripple among those who yearned for change. Former teammates from the fire department gathered at Tom's house for a secret meeting, old friends united again under a shared cause. "We've been living in fear for too long," Wade declared to the group gathered around him, their faces lit by flickering candlelight. "It's time we take action." With each voice raised in agreement, Wade felt a powerful energy build within him, a sense of solidarity that fueled their rebellion against tyranny. These were not just old acquaintances, they were brothers and sisters bound by shared memories and aspirations for a brighter future. Together they plotted their course of action, a plan that would embolden others to stand up against Jake's gang and reclaim their beloved Riverton. Wade felt invigorated by this sense of unity. With allies by his side, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead as they prepared for the fight that would determine their town's fate once and for all. With a renewed sense of purpose and a team of allies at his side, Wade Mercer knew it was time to put a strategic plan into action. He gathered everyone in the back room of Tom's house, a space that had once been filled with laughter but now held the weight of their shared determination. The flickering candlelight cast shadows on their faces as they mapped out their course of action. "First things first," Wade began, his tone serious but steady, "we need to gather supplies." He outlined the essentials they would require for the confrontation: tools for defense, food for stamina, and any information they could collect about Jake and his gang's movements. "We need to be prepared for anything," he added, the fire in his eyes reflecting the urgency of their mission. Tom volunteered to lead a small group to the local hardware store, knowing exactly where to find tools and equipment. "I can get us some flashlights and whatever else we need," he assured Wade, confidence swelling in his voice. Mary offered to coordinate with other townsfolk who were still loyal to Wade, hoping to gather intel on Jake's operations. "I'll spread the word quietly. We can't let them know what we're planning," she said, her resolve shining through. As his friends dispersed to complete their tasks, Wade took a moment to reflect on what this confrontation meant not just for him, but for Riverton. It was not just about revenge, it was about restoring peace and safety to a town that had been suffocated by fear for too long. He envisioned Emily's smile and felt that familiar warmth within him, a reminder that he wasn't fighting alone. Next came the crucial task of gathering intelligence. Wade and another ally, Sarah, decided to stake out Jake's main hangout, a rundown bar on the edge of town where his gang frequently gathered. From their vantage point behind a row of bushes, they watched as men spilled out into the alleyway, exchanging hushed words and laughter that only hinted at the intimidation they wielded over the townspeople. "This is our chance," Wade whispered to Sarah, noting how vulnerable Jake's crew seemed when they were together without their usual bravado. "If we can catch them off guard, we might have a fighting chance." They made notes on who was present and what weapons were visible, information that would be vital for their upcoming confrontation. As dusk settled over Riverton, Wade returned home with a sense of anticipation building inside him. The pieces were falling into place, each ally was doing their part to prepare for the fight ahead. But he also knew they had to act quickly. Jake wouldn't remain unaware for long. Wade felt a sense of unity among his friends that rekindled hope in his heart. Together, they were no longer victims of fear, they were warriors ready to reclaim their town. With every passing moment, the weight of their shared pasts transformed into fuel for a brighter future as they prepared for the battle that awaited them. It was time to confront those who had wronged him and take back what was rightfully theirs. The night air was thick with anticipation as Wade and his allies gathered in the abandoned warehouse just outside Riverton. They had been preparing for this moment, the final showdown, for what felt like an eternity. A palpable tension filled the space as they checked their supplies and weapons, each person silently steeling themselves for what lay ahead. Wade stood at the center, his heart pounding, but it was not fear that gripped him. It was a fierce determination to take back everything he had lost. "Tonight, we show them we're not afraid anymore," he declared, his voice firm as he addressed his friends. The flickering light from the oil lamps cast shadows on their faces, illuminating the resolve etched in every feature. Wade's eyes burned with intensity as he recalled the faces of those who had suffered under Jake Harlow's rule, friends, neighbors, and innocent townsfolk whose laughter had been silenced by fear. As they moved closer to Riverton Center, Wade felt a surge of memories wash over him, the children playing in the park, the joy of community gatherings, and most importantly, Emily's gentle smile that had lit up his world. Those memories fueled his resolve. This fight wasn't just about him, it was about reclaiming their shared dreams. The group arrived at the main square of Riverton, where shadows loomed large under the moonlight. The decrepit buildings stood like silent witnesses to the chaos that was about to unfold. Wade instructed his team to spread out and secure positions around the square while he approached Jake's hideout, where he knew a handful of Jake's men would be waiting. With every step he took towards confrontation, Wade felt empowered. This was his moment to reclaim not only his life but also the spirit of Riverton. He spotted Jake lounging outside the bar with a couple of his henchmen, their laughter echoing through the still night air. It struck him how different things were now. They no longer held power over him. Taking a deep breath, Wade stepped forward into the light. "Jake," he shouted with authority that reverberated through the square. The laughter faded instantly as shocked faces turned toward him. "You thought you could kill me and get away with it," Wade continued, anger simmering beneath his calm exterior. "I'm here to end this tonight." Jake's expression morphed from surprise to fury as he struggled to regain control over his facade. "You should have stayed dead," he spat back, rallying his men behind him like a pack of wolves ready to defend their territory. In that moment, Wade felt all eyes upon him, not just Jake's gang, but also those of his allies who had come to fight alongside him. This was more than a battle. It was a declaration that Riverton would no longer live in fear. As tensions escalated and shouts filled the air, Wade lifted his chin defiantly. Together with his allies by his side, they were ready to confront everything they had lost and fight for the future they wanted to reclaim. The final showdown had begun. There would be no turning back now. The sun rose over Riverton, casting a warm glow on the town that had endured so much darkness. After a fierce showdown, Wade Mercer stood victorious alongside his allies, the remnants of Jake's gang scattered and disheartened. The streets that had echoed with fear now buzzed with a cautious sense of hope as townspeople emerged from hiding, their expressions a mix of relief and disbelief. Wade felt a swell of pride and gratitude as he looked around at the faces supporting him, Tom, Mary, and others who had fought bravely beside him, realizing that together they had ignited a change that would ripple through Riverton for years to come. "We did this together," he said to them, his voice filled with emotion. "This is just the beginning." In the days that followed, Wade's actions began to transform not only the community, but also their relationships. Emily finally learned of his survival when Wade walked through their front door, exhaustion etched on his face but a fire still burning in his eyes. Her initial shock melted into tears of joy as she rushed into his arms, her heart bursting with relief. "I thought I lost you forever," she cried, brushing his cheek with her fingers. Wade held her tightly, feeling the weight of those lost years lift away. "I'm home now," he whispered, knowing that their love would be stronger for having endured such trials. As they pulled away to look at one another, an understanding passed between them. They would rebuild not only their lives but also the hopes and dreams they once shared. As the revitalization of Riverton began, Wade spearheaded efforts to restore community spirit. The very next weekend, he organized a celebration in the park where children could play without fear and laughter could fill the air again. Tom took charge of safety measures as townsfolk rallied to paint over old symbols of oppression with fresh colors and joyful murals. Each task was filled with both purpose and joy. People began to speak openly about their experiences under Jake's rule while looking toward the future with renewed optimism. They held town meetings where ideas flowed freely. How to improve community resources or support each other through adversity became central discussions. Wade found himself deeply involved in rebuilding not just infrastructure but trust within the community, fostering connections with those who had felt isolated and frightened for so long. With every handshake and shared meal at Mary's diner, relationships grew stronger among neighbors. As months turned into seasons, Riverton transformed into a place filled with laughter rather than whispers. Pride surged within Wade as he recognized the importance of resilience and unity, the town's spirit flourishing once more. Wade's journey had come full circle. No longer was he merely fighting for survival, but instead advocating for growth, strength, and love that could weather any storm together. His heart swelled knowing that not only had he reclaimed his life, but also had contributed to forging a brighter future for everyone around him. A new beginning grounded in hope and courage for Riverton's next chapter.